Most teenagers start their first job with zero financial literacy, setting them up for a decade of avoidable debt. By waiting until high school to talk about money, you are effectively handicapping your child's ability to harness the power of compounding interest. Instead of lectures, you can use these three progressive stages to shift your child from a passive consumer to an active investor, turning foundational habits into a lifetime of financial security. Understanding physical currency to mastering long term wealth building. And the third stage is something most adults I know have never actually mastered themselves. So grab a cup of coffee, find a quiet spot, and let's get right into the nuts and bolts of building a financially literate generation. The first stage is what I call the visual currency phase, and it is the absolute easiest win you can score today. When kids are young, money feels like magic. You swipe a plastic card at the grocery store, and suddenly the milk appears. In their minds, the card is an infinite resource, not a finite exchange of labor for goods. You need to strip away the invisibility of digital payments immediately. The most effective way to start this is by using a physical three-jar system. Take three clear jars and label them spend, save, and give. Whenever they receive money, whether it is from a chore or a birthday gift, you make them physically divided. A 2021 study by the University of Cambridge found that children begin developing their core money habits by age 7, so don't be afraid to start early. My neighbor Sarah did this with her 6-year-old son, and it was a total game changer. She gave him a dollar allowance, and he had to put 10 cents into the give jar, 40 cents into the save jar, and 50 cents into the spend jar. Within 3 months, he stopped asking for impulse toys at the store because he realized that spending his $10 on a cheap plastic car meant he couldn't afford the Lego set he had been saving for in his save jar. That tangible realization, the trade off, is the foundational lesson of all economics. Now, here is where things get interesting, and you start to level up the complexity. Once they grasp the physical nature of money, you need to introduce the concept of delay. Delayed gratification is the single greatest predictor of future financial stability. If you have ever heard of the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment from 1970, you know exactly what I am talking about. Researchers found that children who could wait for a larger reward were significantly more successful later in life, and the secret to building that muscle is variable interest. Here's the trick: you act as the bank. Tell your children that for every dollar they leave in their save jar at the end of the month, you will add 5 or 10 cents as interest. It is a small amount to you, but to them, it is a massive revelation. They see their money growing while they do absolutely nothing, which introduces them to the concept of passive income. It shifts their perspective from money being something they only spend to money being a tool they can use to create more wealth. If you're finding this helpful so far, hit that subscribe button. I put a lot of work into these breakdowns, and it helps me keep the content coming for you every week. Stick around, because the next phase is where I show you the secret to making this a permanent habit that they will carry into their own adult lives. All right, now for the one I have been saving. This is the third stage, the investment mindset. Most people treat investing like gambling, but you need to teach your kids that it is actually just purchasing future security. This is where you open a custodial brokerage account. There are many platforms out there that allow you to set up accounts specifically for minors. Instead of just having them put money into a savings jar, show them how to purchase a low cost, broad market index fund. Explain to them that they are now part owners of companies like Apple, Microsoft, or Disney. When they see those companies in the news or notice products in the store, they start to feel a sense of ownership. That connection is profound. I remember when I first showed my nephew his account balance and explained that even though the market fluctuates over the last century, the S&P 500 has returned an average of about 10% per year before inflation. He saw his $100 turn into $110 without him lifting a finger, and he was hooked. It demystifies the stock market. It stops being a scary concept for other people and becomes a logical part of their financial routine. Think about that for a second. Most adults are terrified of the stock market because they never learned these basics as children. You are giving your kids a head start that effectively negates the biggest hurdles most of their peers will face in their 20s. Once you see it this way, you cannot unsee it. The difference between a child who thinks money is a finite pile of cash and one who understands money as a mechanism for long term growth is staggering. So, there you have it, a 3 stage system to build financial literacy from early childhood all the way through their teenage years. We started with the physical, moved to the psychological, and finished with the structural. That third step alone, the transition from simple savings to active ownership, will change their trajectory more than any classroom education ever could. If you got value from this, please share it with a friend who has kids. It is a conversation that is way overdue in most households. Subscribe if you want to stay in the loop for next week's deep dive into household efficiency. I have a feeling you're going to find that one just as practical as this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Money, in its rawest form, is just a promise of future value. By teaching your children that they can hold, grow, and own that value, you are giving them the ultimate tool for freedom. Most people view money as a stressor, a constant chase for the next paycheck. But when you start these conversations early, that fear evaporates. It becomes a logical, managed asset. And honestly, there is no greater gift you can give a child than the confidence to manage their own future. Start tonight. Even if you just grab 3 empty containers and some labels, you have already moved the needle. It is not about the amount of money in the jar, it is about the habit of the jar itself. Every single coin placed in that jar is a victory. Keep going. The ripple effect of these lessons will last for generations. You are building their foundation, $1 at a time. It is the most important investment you will ever make. Nothing else even comes close. Because once they understand this, the world of opportunity is wide open to them. So take that first step. You are doing great. See you next time.